Welcome back to the question and answer session with Myth and Myre. If you missed the last episode, we talked about roleplay in Star Citizen. And it's a fantastic episode. Make sure you go back and check that out. If you watching this live, you can go back watch the VOD after the fact. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be the previous episode. So thank you for joining us for this one. This is the section where the chat has asked a bunch of different questions. So we're going to go through through these questions and answer them, all of them, all 14 of them so far. I'm sorry, 13 of them. And if you have more questions, feel free to use the little coin icon in the bottom if you're watching this live on Twitch. And of course, if you were watching this, join us live on Saturdays. This isn't being recorded on Saturday, but join us live on Saturdays, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub. Just, come follow us here on Twitch and you can get involved in this as well. All right. The first question comes from Del Ener, who asks, CIG's idea of a seamless universe, while invariably mix both RP and non-RP communities. What do you feel would be good additions or ideas to ensure that both communities can thrive and enjoy playing the game the way they want to without stepping on each other's toes?
So I think I kind of briefly touched upon this loosely, and a lot of this kind of hinges upon server meshing. Just because
on it tighter now.
Yes, grab it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it hinges upon server meshing, because if you think about Star Citizen sometime in the year 20X, whenever it's released or whatever, and we have X amount of viable systems and stuff you can go to, the way that server meshing is supposed to work with its first iteration, so static server meshing, is that if I go to a location and so again, I think how I explained it is that you won't choose what region. It'll literally be, if I'm in a location, there'll be a server spooled up for me, and if I happen to be from X location, then that server will just so happen to be the closer one. But then if somebody else from somewhere else shows up, then we'll be together, in whatever server. So anyway, I think how I explained it, and I explained it better before, was essentially, let's say that I want a roleplay community. So I go to Spectrum, I go to Reddit, or whatever, and or however else, and we decide that our roleplay community is going to be in the Nyx system, on Delamar, and our outpost is not going to be Levski, but some other outpost there on Delamar. Now, the roleplay community knows that if they play Star Citizen and they do whatever they want to do, they bounty hunt, they go trading or whatever, they know that if their hub is this outpost on Delamar, on Levski, if they go there, they will more likely than not encounter somebody who is willing to roleplay. Roleplay isn't one of those things that will impede on your gameplay if you're not into roleplaying. It's literally just another layer. It's literally, okay, this person will likely want to use VoIP. That's basically it.
They're actually adding content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to answer that question, I mean, I don't believe that there really is much by way of stepping on toes, especially since the CIG does so much when it comes to its internal systems to try and make the game as immersive as possible with its law system and stuff like that. You'll be hard pressed as a role player to have your immersion broken by somebody just playing the game as the game is intended to be played. But at the same time, because of server meshing, if I want to go to Nyx and all my role players are also at Nyx, I'm going to see more role players there, and we'll have this bubble of role play that's kind of separate from whatever can happen outside of it, is the answer.
Adding to
my
that,
answer.
I say adding to that as well. I think the key is with role playing, especially, is it's always an additive experience. If someone is not role playing with you, their actions with you adds to the role play.
Exactly.
The hardest thing to do, and anyone who's played any kind of role play server can attest to this, is interaction. Because interaction is the breeder of conflict, and that conflict will drive stories, it'll drive character narratives. Especially with Star Citizen being an open environment, but generally speaking in online games, you can't really have a planned idea of where your story is going to go. You just kind of have to let it flow with what happens around you. Obviously, there are some issues, and there are some issues that can cause major problems in any kind of community. But
Right.
If you can generally feel like, oh yeah, I can add to this person's experience. Like if I'm playing a young up and coming gunner on a cargo ship or whatever, then that's my character. Am I going to work on someone's ship and shoot stuff? Yes, but I'm gonna play that character as well and see what happens to them, sort of thing.
So I don't believe that there is necessarily a way to roleplay wrong.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. However, if you are trying to overcomplicate things, if you're trying to add elements to Star Citizen that kind of impede other people's autonomy, let's say that you are role-playing a security guard, and saying, hey, stop right there, I'm security, you have to do this, that, and the other, you're probably role-playing wrong, and that's the only time when you would step onto somebody's toes within Star Citizen, Like, it's like, for instance, to bring things to the Wild West with Wild RP, you can't just say that I am, part of the military and you have to do what I say. There are constraints to make sure that the roleplay interactions between the players don't suck, you know? So, like, as long as you're not overcomplicating things, you'll be fine.
Yeah, and I meant more in terms of like most people will experience roleplay through TTRPGs, where like the DM has all the control, and usually a DM is a collaborative storyteller as well, but they can also like craft a narrative in all these universes. You don't really have that control.
The narrative,
yeah. You don't really have that control with online stories like this. You have to kind of let the stories flow. So
yeah. It's like a GM-less D&D, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, but people do it. Everyone has to have, instead of there being one person who controls it all, right? Everybody takes a little bit. That's why I said like 80% before. 80% of your interactions or trying to do role play is trying to give for someone else. Whether or not, like my character, Bear Black, his role is not the character Bear Black. That would be my character. I would be character playing. But his role, like his occupation, and his role would be like an NPC civilian type smuggler character. So I'm always doing cargo runs with him. I'm not going to go out and bounty hunt on Bear. Maybe I will, but it's rare that I do. And if I do go bounty hunting on Bear, I'm going to bring his caterpillar. I'm not going to bring his Bear Black in a hawk or Bear Black in a vanguard. That's not his. That's not him. That's not his role. That would be a different role, which would be a bounty hunter. So like sticking to those sort of things. And there's nothing wrong with having multiple characters. My character and my account name is Mythematic. I play a character named Streak. Still in the meta is Mythematic. And I still have two other characters, Jarvis and Bear, which are in the meta Mythematic. So when you call me up or try to find me through your comms, it's going to say Mythematic. It's not going to say Bear. So there's no reason. I guess I don't know if I'm answering any question now, but here I'm talking. I have the microphone in front.
No, you're adding to it. Yeah.
Wonderful. And what I like to do also in Red Dead and also in Star Citizen is I like to find, and in a lot of games, but I do visual or a video game RP, is I like to find a mechanic, and I like to make, like in the game, not a mechanic like a fixer, a game mechanic, or a game loop that I enjoy or want to learn a little bit more about, and then I make a character based off of it. And I used to do that in GTA, where I would learn a culture through character, but now I do that through mechanics. So in like Red Dead, I have a gunsmith who does gun stuff. I also have different characters that do different things like trains and stuff. So in Star Citizen, I have a character who does the cargo running industry, and I really focus on cargo and smuggling and everything that could involve the caterpillar. And then I have, or mining. I sometimes take the mole out for mining with Bear. And then I've got a bounty hunter, which is my other character for bounty hunting. So even when making characters and you're trying to figure out what's my character do, make a character and also if you're a subscriber and you have all this flair, you've got tons of little cool costumes for different characters. So make a character for different mechanics. And if I want to go on bounty hunting, play your bounty hunting. Your bounty hunter that day. You have several ships. Maybe put some ships. These 3 ships are this characters. These 2 ships are this characters. Like instead of having that entire hangar for yourself, you can sort of divide those amongst your characters.
I want to add that, like, at the same time, it's really cool when you can apply a character, especially when you have like the ability to like make very distinct characters through voice work and that kind of thing. But at the same time, if you are just trying to get into RP and trying to feel that world out as either yourself in the verse or some named character in the verse, there's nothing wrong about being a jack of all trades either.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
All right.
Um,
Let's move on to the next
yeah.
question.
Or else I'll keep talking. Yep.
Sarkhan0 asks, in your opinion, what is missing for you to live out your RP dreams in Star Citizen, if any?
More
Or
multi-crew stuff.
more multi-core stuff?
Mm.
Yeah.
I would say more player constructed stuff, player constructed bases, player controlled stations, more
Yes.
more places where players can control and access, and then players can also interact with one another.
Yes.
Myth.
Okay.
Yes. The reason why I say it so tentatively, I played Mortal Online 2 for a while when it came out, when they like released it in February and whatever. And it's super cool, really cool game, really like it. There's a lot of things about it that I enjoy, much like Star Citizen. There is it's open open PvP, open loot, and also there's a lot of territory control right now. There is a community that has come over from Mortal Online 1 that already have politics in play. So coming in and starting your own town is really hard to do. And because there's already politics in play. And I worry that if right now, I have a lot of experience with that from Mortal Online and seeing how that sort of works, and me being like, okay, let's role play in this, and me like, oh, it's really hard to now sprout as a community or a city in an established lore. If they started doing that now, Star Citizen, you're going to get that sort of same thing where people are going to be like, our organization has already claimed Nyx. And then when it becomes more of a thing, then it's going to be really hard for people to get into it and start being like, I want to have a place on Nyx. Well, you can't because X, Y, and Z org already claims it. And if that's the case, great, because then you can have role play meetings to try to fix that. Or you'll have Discord meetings, and then you'll still have this politics that come with land grab and territory control.
Yeah.
But also, that's sweet. Like politics is super cool when it comes to role play because there's always going to be someone's belief, someone's control and power, and there's always going to be conflict. And PvP is going to bring conflict. It's just the I worry that bringing player constructed stuff will trying to figure out my wording here. I think there is what's nice about Star Citizen right now is you can drop in and you can drop out, right?
Yeah.
You can drop in, you can do a couple missions, you could drop out. When things start to get a little scary is when, and scary in like the serious, try hard, live out your role play dreams sort of, when people take the game as a lifestyle because they need to craft, build, and do everything for their org to make sure blah blah blah. And when that becomes more of when people start to put in a lot of their real life time into something, they're going to take it a lot more seriously, and then there's going to be a lot more at stake at conflict because a lot of your time and hours have gone into building this zone and then it got destroyed. Now we hate these people, and instead of being like, now we have a conflict with this org, you're going to hate that org because you
hate the
15
player.
hours.
Yeah.
And it starts to turn into it can get very toxic that way, and that's why I'm a little worried. And I've seen it happen in seasons of role play in Arc, Atlas, and such, where you spend your time, you log in, and you spend your month or 2 months building a city for your friends, and then conflict happens, and then you now are so mad because you're getting like gamer rage because you spent so much time with your excitement about this territory that you've built with your friends. It's just like right now I like it because you can drop in, you could drop out. It's very cinematic. There is these scenes and setups and sets you can create, and there's sets that you can have. But I am excited for plots of land. I think it's going to be cool, but it's also going to be a game changer in the fact that I think it'll become very serious, and that's
depending on the territory for sure.
right. And then you're going to get like out of character orgs who are out of character angry at each other, and that's what worries me about it. And if like, and that's I really like Mortal Online 2 because I was sort of an experience where you're like, oh, okay, I see what would happen here. And I still like Mortal Online too. It's just very hard to sort of wriggle into the community when there's already so much established lore and politics from the player
Right.
base. And I worry a little bit about that happening to Star Citizen if you start giving plots of land where people are going to spend a lot of their time trying to impress their friends. Right now, you
So
can impress your friends with hangars and such, but when you're like, I've spent so much time building this awesome city, come look at it, and then
yeah.
when something happens like conflict and where you're this, it could just be a big streamer coming in with their awesome empire, destroy it, and then you have out of character salt, and that worries me a
Yeah.
bit.
So I think,
Does that make sense?
correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like Cord is worried about power gamers burning the candle at both ends, essentially. Both like, people who want stuff and
Yes.
people who are trying to like make and protect stuff.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that like from the lens of like smaller, more localized RP, doesn't matter if like, Jimmy Two Shoes is a power gamer and has
Yeah.
the best things in the system. If you have an RP friend who's also making stuff, screw Jimmy and his massive
Yeah,
corporation.
that's
I'll
true.
support their team instead,
You
or
can have that little pocket
yeah.
of that
It's like
haven of role play.
yeah, and like in Wild RP, it's like going to Rhodes and buying from Garrett's Gunnery instead of going to Saint Denis and buying from like Taipan and their giant gun store.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
yeah.
feel like within localized RP where you're trying to tell a story and you're
You
not
have that
too
network.
invested in leaderboards,
Right.
it doesn't matter too much. But if you're trying to both role play and also be the best of the best with a conglomerate or like a factory or whatever, the RP bleed, the salt and stuff can be real. So just don't get involved if that's not what you want, is what I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Or
'Cause
also put a narrative onto it,
Yeah.
where
Right.
it's like, oh, this person's trying to destroy us. That's an
Mhm.
evil corporation, right? And now you
Yeah.
can,
Yeah. But
yeah,
big orgs do put narrative on it. Like
yeah,
Star Citizen was conceived like what, 2011? Yeah, 2012. And orgs were formed 2012.
Yeah.
And before there was any game, and it was all just forum politics. It wasn't in character forum politics. It was username handle forum politics, talking, making coalitions and stuff like that, and having spies going to Discord channels and stuff like that. They're role playing without role playing. You know what I mean? And that kind of if you check out some of those bigger orgs as well, on their Spectrum pages, they have also for some reason also written lore, like proper
Yeah.
like things in character to
Full
kind of
lore.
like Test Squadron, Imperium, all those orgs have that already. And I do think that when you have a big org that is focused on domination from a power gaming aspect, they're going to exist and they're going to try and fight and compete against other big orgs like that. And they might, like lather a paint or a slap of RP onto it or whatever to make it seem like it's part of the lore. But I don't think that if all you're interested in is the story, that you should be involved or invested in it. You can always, like find a group, find a community, and ignore that because they don't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
I can see, I can see where people can take it personally. Basically, people can take it personally, and I think if the key is like
taking
in the
it
future,
personally. Exactly, that's the way. That's the way I should have phrased it. Taking it personally.
And the key is that, especially with RP, is that just let it roll off your back. It's always just something that happens if you want to get involved in it. So, but I can see how
react.
Yeah. I can see how some people can get like really upset. But if someone's really upset then at you and you're role playing, and just like, okay, that person's really upset at me. This is going to be an interesting dynamic. And if you're trying to kill me, now I've got this
conflict.
person who's trying to hear, that kind of thing. So.
Right.
All right. Next question. Westbrook Drew asks, what actions do players do that really breaks you out of immersion RP? Myth, why don't you start with this one?
One more time.
What actions
what are actions that players do that breaks you out of it?
Yeah.
Great. I can't believe I'm so excited I get to say this. What I do not like, and please don't do it. And it's such a simple, everyone does it. But when you're in a ship and you show up to your favorite streamer or someone who's role playing, and you just sort of show up in your ship and you do like this sort of thing, and you start corkscrewing and just trying to be a part of it, It
Oh,
just takes me out of it.
oh
And
yeah,
like even if I'm like, oh, this is a really cool scene, and then just like someone tries to find the camera and
yeah,
where that camera angle is, oh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
yeah,
And like it takes me out of it because I'm looking for my camera, right?
yeah,
And then if someone's like trying to find out where the camera is, I could tell that you're looking at my stream.
yeah,
And it's just like it's like role player stream sniping.
yeah.
And
Mm,
it's just it takes me out of it. And it's like I don't want it. And I immediately change the camera when that happens.
yeah.
Running everywhere is a good one too, Delina. And I like to just yell at people, no running in the spaceport, and that's always fun.
Yeah.
And then they
Don't run
usually
on my
stop and
promenade.
look at you. Yeah, exactly. You're gonna slip and you're gonna decapitate yourself. But it's always fun. But yeah, like showing up and like booping the snoot with your ships and doing
Mhm.
those sort of things, that takes me out of it. I'm trying to do something here, man. I've got
Yeah.
this art that I'm trying to express. And
Mhm.
then just like when like in a cinematic scene, then just like do 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 do, like oh
Yeah. Some
there's
guy's
someone's
flying
reclaimer.
his
Yeah,
reclaimer
and
like
it's like
sideways and is
cool
freaking
ship.
out.
I
You
get
know.
it. You have that ship, and I know
Yeah.
people are proud of their ships, but that takes me out of it.
Yeah.
And
If you want to like involve yourself in RP, involve yourself in RP. You know, like don't
yeah,
as
right,
Smith said,
yeah, offer
yeah,
something, show up.
yeah.
Yeah, if you want to show
Like
up, call me in character, and then yeah, we can talk about showing up. But don't just show up and be like, I'm here.
Mhm.
Sorry, I
yeah.
just totally
Like
hijacked your
I've
comment.
been showing a bunch of guys like SC in the past couple weeks, and the amount of times we just have a ship like be where I tell them to go, and so
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
almost crash into them, or like it's way too much. I actually like one of them. I just shot one of them because they were just
yeah,
there.
that's what I do.
Um,
Yeah, be
and
fun.
I just role played it as that just making sure.
Mhm.
I'm on your
But
friends list, Myth. Sorry,
mm,
you're not the same. Yeah,
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 but
that takes me out of it.
Meyer, same
from
question.
for me, honestly, yeah, that like
That.
if you want to be part of an RP scene, and you know it's something like SCRP where it's kind of like it's not 100% like it is off the bat, like it is improv, but at the same time it's improv that we have kind of like prearranged that we're going to be playing with each other, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
If you want to involve yourself, then maybe perhaps ask first, or like that kind of thing,
yeah.
because just hanging around, just being someone who's just gawking or staring it
Yeah,
can
you
really
can just
take you
watch
out
it
of
from
it.
the stream. Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
you can just watch the stream if
yeah,
you're or watch the video or something. Yeah,
exactly.
I
Because
think. Go
I
ahead.
think it's worse than like somebody showing up to take your bounty, or worse than somebody
Yeah,
just like talking to you who's not part of the scene, because it's not adding anything.
yeah, yeah. Bring something. Even if you're like, I don't know what to bring, just call and bring
Mhm.
a character. Hi, have a conversation. You could like if you want, this is my invitation to anybody on Star Citizen who's watching this and whatever. If you want and we're on the same server, call me up. Like
Mhm.
call me up in the game. You can do that. That's a thing. That's a feature. That's a sweet feature. That you can just call somebody through comms. Call me up and we'll have a conversation. I'll probably ask you where you got my number, but that's fine. Like, hey, where did you get my shit? And then you could make up whatever answer, and that's fine. You could
Mhm.
be like, I got it at a bar. It doesn't matter. Well, we can meet in game. I don't care. But just showing up and being like, hey, I'm a part of this. And if you're embarrassed and don't want to do it, then don't. That's fine. But
Yeah.
also, I'm super down for role play with anybody. That's why I like role playing in Star Citizen, is because I like role playing at people who usually don't role play, to make them comfortable or to help them get comfortable and inspire them to role play. And
This is
that's
my
why
invitation to say,
yeah,
Myth said that, not me. Call me
yeah.
randomly, please.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, I may not answer, right? You can call me. I may not answer, but if I'm in the middle of something, I may not answer. But if I'm just doing cargo stuff and you want to role play and get into something, totally do it. My character hires people, or used to. I'm going to still try to do it, but it hires people to come and you can just come around and stand on the ship, and then I'll give you a payout or whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I said, just if you want to be a part of it, be a part of it. If you are too shy to role play, then watch the stream. Like, and then if you want to watch the good camera angles. And like as much as that's the one thing that sort of is my pet peeve. Running through
Hmm.
the halls of any space station is just a little bit of a meme and not a big deal for me anymore, because like it just sort of comes with the territory. I sort of make fun of them. But what does bother me and takes me out of it is the people who just sort of show up and want to be a part of it because they know where you are and they found out where you are and
I want to
they're in the
say
same
that
server.
stream sniper rules should apply.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. It's stream sniping. Yeah.
just in the same way, if you're playing PUBG, running to somebody's location, even if they're going to shoot them, and so you give them the kill or whatever, is bannable in PUBG.
Mhm.
Don't, it's the same thing. And I would normally, I mean, like once upon a time, be like Cord and say, call me. But there's way too much when it comes to like, don't call me.
Yeah.
Definitely. I get that
Yeah.
too. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I and like I said, you can call me. I may not answer. I may
Mhm.
be in the middle of something. I may be offline. I may be doing cargo runs. I may not even be dressed as Bear Black, or I may not even be in the mood for Bear Black. I may answer, but if I'm down to, just call me and see. If I'm streaming, call me in game because that's in game, and it makes it canon, which
Yeah.
is what we've learned today. That everything you do in Star Citizen is canon.
Everything you do in Star Citizen's canon.
Mhm.
All right. Next question comes from Final Eclipse 1, who asks, is there any place besides Spectrum to facilitate RP in Star Citizen? Sorry if this is
In-game.
already asked answers. In game.
Yeah. Just like if you have a microphone, turn it on, talk to somebody, you're RPing. It doesn't matter what happens afterwards, but you're RPing. Even if it's just like, hey, do you want to do a mission together? Sure, I'll do a mission together. Because Star Citizen, again, is designed in such a way that every single facet of the game, by virtue of being itself, isn't meta. Like, hey, have you heard about this thing about our ship on Spectrum? There's literally a Spectrum kiosk in Area 18 where they sell newspapers.
Mhm.
Like, every single thing about it isn't. I mean, like, you have to try really hard to pull somebody out of being immersed in Star Citizen. And generally, that's by talking about current events.
Yeah.
That's like probably the only thing you probably shouldn't do anyway, because I don't care. Whoa. But yeah.
Knocking things over again.
Yes. Like, this long cable gets everywhere.
I have the same problem.
Just cables everywhere. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we throw the answer. Myth, do you want to add anything to that? To like, how people can get involved? Other than Spectrum?
There is a Discord that I joined years ago. I think it's just called SCRP.
Yeah. There's a group that I used to be part of.
And you're a part of it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they are. I haven't gotten super involved with them, but I'm a part of it, and I'm a supportive. Yeah, go that Discord group. I don't know where it is. It's buried in my Discord.
It's org browser also has a bunch of like orgs that have like there's an actual like thing you can take on your org in your browser to say that you're roleplay friendly. Yeah.
Roleplay. Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of people here in this Star Citizen Roleplay Discord. It's got a rainbow black hole sort of swirly going on. And these are a bunch of people who are interested in role playing. I don't know them very well. But I do know that it is a database of people who are excited to do role play stuff. And if you are interested but don't know or have any friends or want to make new friends in a community that does role play, and you want to maybe do it offline or not necessarily want to whatever it may be, if you want to test out a character, I'm sure that there are people there in that community that would love to play and test out and enjoy that character. Also, there's my Discord as well, and things like that in my community would also do such a thing. But when I'm saying away from as a fan of Star Citizen, not as a streamer of Star Citizen, because a lot of these days I am starting to separate what I like and love versus my own channel and my professional answers. I think if I wasn't a streamer, I would say go check out this Star Citizen Roleplay Discord. Check out the database and things like that. If you would like to support me and all that stuff, blah, 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 check out my Discord, and I have a community who would love to help. But my unstreamer entertainer, me as a love for role play and wants to help you find people who are interested and could potentially mesh well with you. And there's a lot of people in this community, the Star Citizen Roleplay Discord. And I don't have a link for it.
I just want to reiterate one more time, just because of the reach of this podcast and stuff, that if you want to get into SCRP, talk to somebody in game. But Cord Mythematic has like an open policy. He just said, like you can reach out to him while he's doing his Bear Black RP, and you can RP that way. But as a rule of thumb, please don't do it on other channels without being invited to do so, because
Right.
that's stream sniping, and people who are streaming are trying to run a production. Not everybody has the wherewithal to do what Myth can do, and it's disruptive. So like, find another way to get into it than doing that.
Yeah. Like, for
Yeah,
instance,
and
I
I will
do.
immediately change that rule if someone abuses the crap out of it and does something awful. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'm right. That's my open invitation right now to inspire people to come and join and have fun and blah blah blah. But also, I will immediately retract it if something happens.
Yeah. For a good example is like I used to do, and I'm going to bring back this, especially this summer, a bar stream where on Fridays I would just open up a bar. And that kind of idea is a full open invitation, but that's just because I already will say open invitation, and I'll even say it into like the game chat. I'll say, you know, the bar is open, come on down. You know, it's just to kind of publicize
Talk
it.
about your day. Oh, I went and did a drug run over here. Oh, is anyone in security? No.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I did a drug run earlier. Yeah, it's super awesome, and it's a really great way. And I'm sorry I'm interrupting you.
No, you're good. You've been part of it, so you know what it's like. You know?
I've been interrupting Myre and AstroPub all day, and it's because I love roleplay and love you all, and I'm just so passionate about it. And what you both do. Go check out the pub when AstroPub opens it up. It's a really cool light roleplay way. It's just conversation. You go in for a drink, and you're RPing, having a drink, and and just like you would in real life, you go to a bar and you stir up a conversation at the bar. It's the same way. It's a really great way and a great network and a great social hub for roleplay and introducing new characters and testing new characters.
It's actually a really cool way of just like, normally you can just like, you know, open the chat channels and say, hey, does anybody want to do a mission or something? And then be, you know, met with either silence or people saying no. But you go to like, you know, Paul's bar, and then you have other people who are there for conversation or whatever, talking about their missions. And then from there, you can then get somebody to then play with you. You know, you can leave the bar and like, you know, go do a mission with somebody who's going to be talking with you and that kind of thing. It's really cool. I think that Star Citizen's really in this really cool position right now where like we're in the infancy of this kind of stuff, still kind of in alpha kind of deal, where like you don't have all these you know, I guess more social elements of the gamers, whatever, like, you know, that come and ruin things. So like it's like, have you heard of VR chat? Yeah, VR chat is basically, I mean, like it's not RP, it's just a chat room, right? Everybody's talking. But over time, you get more and more people coming in, just making life hell for people because that's just who and how they are. Right now, Star Citizen doesn't have too many of those elements, and so you can have, you know, an open call for things like that. And it's a really good time to get into it now and get established and get, you know, like connected with people before people get a little bit more, you know, like sequestered and secretive about like, you know, how to connect and communicate, because eventually you're going to get to a point where like people they're going to want to try and favor their own experience over being open to other people. And they're going to try and protect their experience, you know, like then being with other people. Like 90% of the best experiences you can have in VR chat right now are like in private rooms with people that you know, and people that know people that you know. And if you go into a public lobby, it's nothing but chaos. Yeah. And that's why.
Yeah, I know people who do RP for VR chat stuff, and like they have to do full sets, but they have to do it in a private room, you know. So
exactly.
All right.
So get in now while it's hot. Roleplay.
Yes. Now get in the ground floor so you can get to know these people, and then you can join those crews. Windlord00 asks, I used to RP WoW as a drunken dwarf with a Glasgowian. That's it.
Nice.
Thank you,
and now I know that word.
Yeah. Is that an accent from the UK or
from Glasgow?
From Glasgow. Okay.
Glaswegian.
With a really diverse, good group of friends. I have a BBC News presenter type British accent, though, and I'm not practiced in voices. Would you suggest people wanting to roleplay characters whether their natural accent doesn't fit the character they want to play? It doesn't matter. Voices are nice, but voices don't matter. If you're a character, you're a character. How you present your voice will differentiate. So the difference between saying, hello, how are you doing today? And hello, how are you doing today? Is two different characters right off the bat because of the tone that you speak in. You don't have to have, You don't have to go, "Oh, hey, governor." It doesn't have to. You don't have to go that crazy.
Yeah.
You can just be yourself, and just think about who is. Sorry, the actor in me. It's like just immerse yourself. Just become the character.
Yeah, to add, characters are nice, but if you're in there playing the character, that should be enough. There can come a point, like let's say you're in a server that you have like, multiple, character slots, and you go in as one character who is one way, and then you come in, as another character who is like the completely opposite. Maybe they're evil, but with the exact same voice and no effort, then that can be an issue. But like when it comes to Star Citizen or whatever, like don't necessarily think about your accent when it comes down to like role playing in Star Citizen. It's nice, but it's not necessary to fulfill role play. The beauty about Star Citizen is the fact that like you're in space. You don't have to be an orc. You don't have to be a dwarf either. You could just be anything. There is no onus to be like some kind of stereotypical elf, orc, dwarf, that whatever. You're just you. And you can say, okay, well, what if I wanted to be a Glaswegian, like, pirate from Grimhex?
Totally can.
Okay, but you can't. I mean, like, play to your... Yeah, I mean, go on, Myth.
Yeah.
No, I was just agreeing, and then you can't. So, you can't be a dwarf, right? But you could be a Glaswegian human.
Yeah, but to be Glaswegian, you need a Glaswegian accent. So to that, I'd say practice.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you're talking about like you want to have that accent. Yeah, if you're going to do that, you'd have that accent.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
I'm about to drop some hot, sticky, my favorite answer. So go ahead before I.
Okay. I just Windlord wanted to clarify for the next question was like that the character was text only. So he was typing out this whole thing rather than voice. But I think we got that because we know that WoW doesn't have VoIP. But
oh man, WoW had VoIP. Oh god,
it does now.
Never leave the house. And it does have local VoIP, does it?
Not localized VoIP.
Yeah.
No,
Oh god.
within the party.
Man, I would if I had local VoIP. Goodbye.
I would never leave the house.
Imagine like going to a raid and be like, "All right, everyone," and just like you hear them in the distance because of like, "All right, so we're gonna go ahead and like going through a raid call while fighting something would be dope. All right, anyway, that'd be cool. That'd be so sick. Yeah, it would be kind of cool. It'd be awesome. And like banging your head off against bosses and being like, "Oh, this sucks," and then oh man, that'd be so great. Oh man. Anyway, my answer is. And what was the full question before I screw up? And
so basically, what would you suggest to people wanting to role play characters where their natural accent doesn't fit the character they want to play?
Oh, perfect. So two things. Voice mod is free. So if you wanted, you can easily just get one of these sort of things. It's not necessarily this one. This is a Go XLR. It's hardware and firmware, but also you can get software. Voice mod is free. And there has a filter on it. So if you wanted, you could do a hotkey on there that could then, I don't know, Alt plus symbol or something, and you could have your filter turned on. And that could also help in your immersion to different things. Also, I think in the game it does that. Anyway, but if you wanted to, those tools exist for some sort of filter or mask to help you if that helps you get a little more comfortable with character. And then another thing, and this is my favorite tidbit I got from Crispin Freeman podcast. As much as I want to say Crispin Freeman told me it himself, he didn't. It was from
Richard Horvitz, right?
it was a voice acting mastery years ago, and he said the best way to create a character is to do an impression of a celebrity, but don't tell anybody the impression you're doing. So if I wanted to talk like this and make a character, and this is now my character, okay? I don't have to tell you that I was trying to do Nick Cage there, right?
Yeah.
Because then you go, oh, gross, that wasn't him. You don't have to know, but that definitely was a new character voice. So you can even be like, oh, hey, everybody, this is my new character. And you don't need to tell you that I was trying to do Danny DeVito, but that's a new character voice because you've introduced that character or whatever amalgamation of whatever celebrity impression you were doing as that character.
That was a perfect John DiMaggio, though. Anyway,
and that was what I was doing. So so you could pick. It doesn't even need to be an impression you can do well. You can you just pick someone that has a distinctive voice in your ear, Whether or not you can do it doesn't matter. But if you can get their speech patterns and recognize in your brain them saying in a certain way, and then you convince or you convince people, you conceive that to the world. Is that the word? Anyway, you conceive that to the world, and that will be the original voice for that character. Like I said, never tell anybody the impression you're doing, because then they will immediately get taken out of it and go, "That was the horrible John DiMaggio.
Yeah.
That was a horrible." Like, but as soon as you say that, you're like, "Oh, I was actually trying to do Jon Snow from Game of Thrones." Then someone's going to be like, and they're going to start judging it. So don't do that. If you're like, "Oh, you know who's got a really cool voice? Patrick Stewart. I'm going to start doing Patrick Stewart," and then you don't have to like worry about. But don't tell anybody. Like I said, people could be like, "That sounds a lot like Patrick Stewart." But don't tell anybody that was your inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the little sneaky bit where, like Jarvis's voice, Bear Black's voice is John Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a great John Goodman, but God damn it, now it is. This is my character, and that's just how I always get into his character. And now it's his own voice. It started as John Goodman, but now it's his own little thing. And I've created over a long time this character, and now Bear Black has his own voice. Jarvis is John Cleese. Hello there. Good to see you. Oh, it's wonderful to see you today, sir. And from like Fable and the Butler, that's where I got Jarvis from. But I never really told anybody till right now that is where his inspiration was from. And now, throwing a filter on top of it, I now have Jovian artificial replicant by a rule of intelligence self. So like now that is my best advice to someone who's trying to come in and start a new character, or you're like, I really want to have this new character, a new voice. Wish I could do more in voice acting, or blah, blah, blah. And you're trying out stuff. Think of a celebrity. Don't tell anybody who it is. Start doing impression of them. And then later and over time, you will solidify the muscle memory of making that voice. Like now, John Goodman isn't Bear Black, but Bear Black is his own Bear Black, and Jarvis is now his own Jarvis, because those were the seeds, or the seeds that grew the tiny little plants that are now those muscle memory voices.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So yeah,
I would say that
my tidbit to
good artists create, best artists steal. The kind of thing. Everything is right.
Everything's inspired from something else.
Yeah.
As a voice acting exercise, though, that's something that I've heard before from that same podcast, but also from other people too. Yeah. Like I think when it comes down to it in general, if you're doing like voiceover IP, like RP, then consistency is key. It doesn't necessarily matter if you're trying to imitate an actor and you're not getting their voice. Doesn't matter. You have like again the seeds, the building blocks to build your own thing. Yeah. So like if you want to be a Glaswegian, like a dwarf, then I guess
do it.
Do it.
It may not be accurate, but do it. It'll be that character voice.
How many million people live in Glasgow? They don't all sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm English. I don't really sound very English.
I'm from I've lived in Texas for like almost 5 years now. I say y'all, and I got a bit of an accent, but I can guarantee you there are people who lived in this state longer than I am who have less of an accent than I do. No one has perfect accents from where they're from. So it's good.
Exactly.
Advice.
Yeah,
right.
that's my favorite answer, because it's such a great way to. It's a great voice acting exercise, especially for someone who is nervous and wants to get into voice acting but doesn't necessarily know how to start. Or I can't do voices, and it's like, yeah, you can. You just don't.
You have one right now.
You're doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as long as you have the frame or the consistent framework of, like I said, like John Cleese has a very interesting speech pattern. You don't have to do 100% perfect John Cleese, but if you know and have in your head that speech pattern or where that happens, then try it, do it. And if it's awesome, it's awesome. If it isn't, it's that character.
So it's also from Crispin's podcast, but think it was from his guest Richard Horvitz, who is like also coincidentally my favorite voice actor. Yeah. But he says when it comes down to voice acting and stuff like that, and you're not sure exactly if you can do something or whatever, or if you can act or if you can voice act, you are enough. Because like end of the day, as a human being, if you've encountered any emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, that kind of thing, then you should be, you can portray those things, and you as a person should be enough to do anything. So just do it. Put on your shoes from Nike, not a sponsor, and do it.
I love not a sponsor, and do it. I've noticed, and this is just me now rambling about acting and role playing, and I'm so excited now that I know that Myre and I have listened to the same voice acting podcast and have the same taste in voice actors. Wait, hold on, losing the thought, and it's gone.
Okay, I'll interject something real quick.
Nope, I found it.
Okay,
you first.
Okay,
first, I'll remember.
That actually reminds me, because I actually took voice acting lessons when I was in college. I got a minor in theater, and I wasn't an actor. It was more like one of those situations where they need actors, because like there were most of the staff were women, so they needed male actors to portray characters, or just period. So I ended up getting drafted many times. So I ended up taking a couple of classes with the acting folks, and especially doing a voice acting class, or voice class. And they gave us some professional like how to learn accents. And I got a Dubliner accent that I had to learn. I was terrible with it. And what I learned what it was that basically it's the most stereotypical Lucky Charms like guy accent, but then just don't go that high. Don't go, they're after me, Lucky Charms, and then just bring it down. And I
make it a little bit more real. Yeah.
And then, but that's almost exactly the same concept. It was like that whole thing was like, it doesn't really matter as long as you can get the where the voices are coming from, and if you can listen to something, you can hear where the vowels and everything are formed in your mouth. You don't need to know those details. So yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You said
thing now? The thing I remembered. So this is the thing I remembered is that, and this is a fun little, just me going through life and being like, and observing things. It's about to get really deep, so I may not go that far. But I've noticed acting is a practice, right? We all know that. And acting takes practice, role playing takes practice, voices take practice, and even trying to tap old emotions and emote as an actor takes practice. I was a musical theater major, and I had some really great friends who were really wonderful at role playing. I almost said acting, because acting, this is acting.
Same thing.
Role playing is acting, and it is the same thing, but it isn't. And I can explain why. Anyway, my theater teacher was always so great, and I was like, because he's done this before. He's like, because has his master's in acting. And me, as I'm getting older, and I used to hate cold reads and scripts and blah blah blah, but me, as I'm getting older, I'm becoming better at acting, and that's because I have experiences. It's harder that's why it's so phenomenal when you see a young actor kill it on stage, because where did they get all this experience to know exactly which emotion to use here, subtlety and blah blah blah. So even just going through life, you become a better actor, but also just know that sometimes acting and reacting, acting is reacting, acting and reacting is just a part of what emotion or how true to this character can I be here. Even if you're role playing and making up story on the fly, you can be realistic. You can also be a cartoon wacky character. But there's just a fun little tidbit I remember. Just like the older you get, the more experienced you will be acting, because a lot of acting is reacting and also calling back in different emotions. And without going into a slight tangent of depth, that's where I will leave it.
Yeah,
and I don't think I have anything else to say. I thought there was a cool point, but that's it.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Next question comes from Blazrad, who asks, Saul Shelley, the Redeemer pilot, RP stream when? So,
better call Saul.
Quick story.
Better calm Saul.
For my 10K subscribers on YouTube, I promised that I'd do a Redeemer lore video, but the problem was that the Redeemer has no lore. So eventually I had to make up my own lore for the Redeemer and so I did an entire video on it. And while I had actually made it up live on stream for like a charity, someone said, you got to put your name in there somewhere as a nice little like nod. And so I was like, cool. And so I created a character called Saul Shelley, who was a test pilot for the UEE, who saved the last remaining test version of the Redeemer, but saved it, but still broke it pretty badly. And so everyone latched onto that, like, that's pretty funny now, Paul. The Saul Shelley. So there we go. Now there's Saul Shelley, the test pilot, who's going to exist.
When are we gonna shoot that movie?
Yes, soon.
Yeah,
soon.
Right. All right, cool. Wait, I'm also what's the word? Never mind. Brain's farting, losing words, losing steam.
All right. Mr. Snaps asks, question for all. When the game is in quote unquote release state later down the line, what would your dream, your dream RP storyline? Whatever is fun.
I'm too much of an improv RPer to say what a dream RP storyline is, but I could tell you what I would like to do is whether or not it'd be viable as a streamer because of how it is or like in general, but like with the Starliner, with all the stuff that they have with that, with the bits and pieces we can already see in game from it, like the barista NPC being a Starliner pilot, like having, like other RPers, be like in-flight hosts and hostesses and that kind of stuff.
The Starliner.
Yeah.
I
Like
thought you meant
being
the
a commercial,
liner.
Exactly, would be pretty dang cool. Either that or just, like fulfilling a proper Star Trek adventure, and that all that means to me is I'm in a Carrack or a larger multi-crew ship and me and other RPers are doing a mission. That's it. That's why I got the game, just with the way RP is and the way the game is. I mean, like just a dynamic game with role playing. Every single time you play the game will be another episode of Star Trek. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Myth?
Why else can you sit in the captain's chair in a fueling ship, in a Starfarer? Thank you. And why else? If not for roleplay, you can't do anything in there besides sit and look cool. I think when the game is, that's the thing. The question was when the game is released, what kind of, right?
Yeah, like in a more release state, quote unquote.
In a more release state. Well, my annoying answer is I should just do it now. I could just do it now.
Right.
But also, my dream story that I'd like to tell, which is a story that I have in my mind. I don't know if it's going to happen. I am also like Myre, where I am very much an ad-lib reactor in improv. There is plot that I would like to see. I would like to see some conflict with Bear. Everybody likes Bear, but Bear's also smuggling illegal AI in Stanton. So like there's tons of I would like Bear to have conflict. There's some sort of hit or some sort of something. And I had another org that was sort of his that sort of is the reason why Jarvis exists and blah blah blah. But I'm hoping for some sort of conflict with Bear. If I have to run from someone or blah blah blah, that could be super cool. But there is a cool plot point that I thought would be sweet. I don't know if I'll ever do it because when it comes to role playing, and here I go, get comfortable. There's a slippery slope when it comes to trying to write and plot out A to Z your story. That's sort of a misconception when role playing. Because in Dungeons and Dragons, you only can control your backstory, and then whatever happens is through the game. You could also talk to your DM and try to make a plot point happen, and that's fine. But like in this and in video games, that doesn't necessarily happen. You control up the backstory up until the point you start playing, and then it's sort of free range. So it's very good to react as your character, but don't act as your character. Don't try to act like you want plot to happen, because that's going to, one, take it out, and also could be controlling on other players that you're playing with. So reaction is good, but acting and trying to push role player narrative on people, like me saying this awesome, cool plot point or cool story that I would like to do, isn't me saying I'm going to do it. But this is something I thought about and could be fucking cool. Excuse me for swearing. I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
So fucking cool.
It's too late for that now.
It's too late. Just use take two. The what would be really cool is if this was a plan that I had once that could be super dope. If Jarvis was seized by some sort of organization, which would have been my other organization known as the Ahmadi Enclave, which are like, they really like, they're like this techno cult. So they were like, Jarvis, he's one of our gods. We must blah, blah, blah. And they worship unbreaked AI. They break AI and then they worship them because they can solve the world's problems. So like, that's their belief. So the Ahmadi Enclave, and oh man, I'm going into my nerdy ass lore, and people
Let's do it.
like, who's
Let's
this
do
guy?
it. I love it.
Sorry. This is what you get. So the Ahmadi Enclave are a separate faction or a splinter faction of my organization or whatever, that are meant to be the conflict to Bear Black. They are supposed to try to track down, and Bear Black owes the Ahmadi Enclave jobs and things because Bear Black is being paid by the Ahmadi Enclave to keep Jarvis safe and away from Stanton security. What would be cool is if the Ahmadi Enclave somehow were able to recreate, or even Jarvis himself, maybe Jarvis himself, because he's unbreaked, right? Because he's a sentient brain that can, or a robot that can learn and react like War Machine from defensive whatevers. So if he can figure out his own way with his own now personality, like the ascension of this bell curve of AI sentience, isn't this fun? This is how I role play. Is like, tragedies, like AI becoming a big thing. Well, let me role play it out. Jarvis becoming and ascending into sentience and overpowered. What if there was a point where Jarvis was able to replicate himself in smaller breaked patches and then disperse himself amongst the stars, which I thought would be super cool. And the reason, and what I would do was I would record my own voice attack program as Jarvis, and then in lore, and like my community members and patrons would be able to then use Jarvis in their own way. They wouldn't have the breaked AI, they would have Jarvis. I thought that would be a super cool little tidbit. Will that ever happen? Probably not. I've got to do like 250 billion different like voice lines to do that.
Yeah.
But it would
so
be
get started.
Yeah, exactly. There was a time where I was like, I'll do 7 voices lines a day. And then I would start to program it out, and then I would drop it. Maybe that's something I'll do at some point. Maybe it isn't. But that would be super cool, because then I could then role play up to the point where I'm like, all right, Jarvis is ready to drop, or the Ahmadi Enclave or whatever the hell is ready to now. It's come to a point where they need to hide Jarvis more. How are they going to do that? Probably through these Jarvis breaked AI iterations, where I could
Jarvites.
These Jarvites, these little Jarvites, out towards. Anyway, so it was just a really cool kind of concept that I was thinking about. I would love to do it. It's a ton of work, but will I do it? Maybe. I'm a tryhard, so we'll see. But that's a story point that I would like to do. Would be fun to do. Will I do it? Probably not, because I am more of a, when I log in to play Star Citizen or stream Star Citizen, I don't really have much planned. I'll maybe have a job or two planned, or an event planned, where I'll be like, today, you know what, I'm going to go get my hover bike, and then I'm going to go zip around the forests of Microtech, and that's going to be my content for the day, and then I'll role play around it. So that's my, we'll see if something happens. That would be super dope. It also would really ingrain a lot of the storyline and things. Do I want to do it? Yes. Will I? Probably not. I've got so many things on my plate that I want to do. But that answers your question.
Yeah.
I'm such a nerd.
No, I will say, add to this, is like, because my theories are similar to y'all's, which is just like, I'm just here to have fun and just see what stories come out, because stories are crazy. But the end, my end goal is obviously build a bar. Well, have a bar out of a ship, and have it be successful enough that people are coming and enjoying it, and people coming from all different facets of life. So criminals, bounty hunters, corporate types, rebels, all these people come to this bar knowing that it's neutral ground and they can negotiate things and being a hub for activity would be that end goal RP for me. Is just that kind of, not really a storyline, but do that.
Oh yeah, just being that hub and that central community place where people can and inspire people to RP is dope. And I think you're killing it because it is such a good thing to even in the AstroPub, like going to the AstroPub, Diabolus is Bear Black's arms dealer.
Yeah.
And that's
he's my bouncer in the pub.
He's your bouncer and an arms dealer on the side. And so now when I need guns, I could buy 1 or 2 at the shop, but I'd rather just get in touch with Diabolus and be like, hey, I need some guns for blah, blah, blah. And usually I'll meet up with Diabolus at one of these events and we'll sneak off and we'll do like an arms deal. So like finding contacts in the game too, to be those sort of points where it's like, I can just go to the shop and get these guns, but it's way cooler if somebody else gets them for me and I buy them from this little narrative rather than me going to the shop and spending 50,000 on these guns. I'd rather give 50,000 to a person and do it that way because it's giving and it's that thing. Yeah. It's that give and take.
Oh yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next question. Yeah. I was going to finish that off with that. That's one of the reasons why I'm like where Star Citizen's going is that eventually you will need a Diabolus because Diabolus will have guns that you do not have. That if you're like, hey, we need to make an assault, non-role play style. We need to assault this base, which is controlled by this other org or controlled by this NPC group that we need to take out. I need a railgun. There is no railgun in Pyro. We can't find any railguns in Pyro, but Diabolus has 7,000 stocked up on some ship. He's just like, here you go.
Which is why, and, watching this, in July, you'll be like, oh, okay, I understand. But which is why this wipe for 3.17.2, deleting everyone's stockpiles of items that are now on the rare loot table is going to facilitate roleplay so well. Because now even if you're not a role player, you'll have to.
You'll have to ask someone. And even if you're just asking, hey, do you have a gun? That counts.
Yeah.
Because you're asking for something in game about something. So I mean, yeah, it's really cool. And it's fun when role players get to laugh at the people who aren't role playing. Because they are role playing, it's like, haha, you're in this immersive game. Haha. It's always fun to do that. But really, we are super excited to role play with you and play with you people who don't role play. It's not just, and also if I role play with you and you're not role playing back, I'm not going to think you're a piece of shit or anything. I role play with everybody. Even if you're just like, hey, this game is great. Oh man, no, you're role playing. That's so cool. Hey, what do you like about this game? And I'll probably answer in character. But I won't like, of course, shit on you or anything. Like, excuse me, sir, I'm role playing here.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that.
All right. Next question comes from Winlord, who asks, how important for RP is it to integrate the lore into a more diegetic, thanks Tony Z, way? Which is your favorite way to encounter lore in game and add it to roleplay? I love the idea of the physical Galactopedia in game.
One more time?
Basically, how important is it to integrate actual game lore into role play?
Into the role play itself. I mean, like, yeah, it helps a lot. Obviously, I mean, like, if you're making a character and you're saying to other people, "Oh, Hurston dynamics is this," when they're not, or whatever, then like, if you're saying that to somebody who's not into RP but they're big on lore, then you're just gonna be, like, not doing it wrong, but kind of like rubbing their shoulders the wrong way or whatever like that, not making sense and being confusing. I would say that it would help to know the lore, but like if you're making your own kind of like just look, I keep smacking my mic and I'm apologizing. But like if you're making your own localized thing, it doesn't matter. It helps a lot because the universe of Star Citizen and the lore of Star Citizen is so rich, but there's also so much, and that's why the Galactopedia is so useful because you can literally search a term and not have to be wrong, and all it takes is a button press. So like I would say that it's not necessary, but it's really helpful. And not only that, but like if you're correct, if you can say, oh, they're flying an Asperia Talon, that's it's made by Asperia, not the Teveran themselves, but it's actually a refactor of the model that was in the Second Teveran War at the end of the Second Teveran War at 2610. Then bang, that's lore, that's the date, that's true. But you don't need to have that information. You just have to not have a life. But
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, I think I agree. I mean, you don't have to. I don't know a lot of the Star Citizen lore. I always, when I ask for Star Citizen lore, I ask AstroPub, and then I ask Myre. I'm like, hey,
In
this
that
thing is
order.
this? A
Yeah.
yeah, in that order. And it's great, and like having also those resources and those people who are those fonts of information about the lore and stuff is really helpful and useful. A lot of our table story friends have joined Star Citizen lately, and yesterday, 2 days ago, last week, it doesn't matter. I don't know what day it is. What day is it? Thursday, Friday?
It's Thursday.
The
Today's
Thursday.
today.
Thank you. Saturday, which is enough days ago where I could just say Saturday, where Myre played Crispin Hurston, a character
Yes.
you made up
Oh, Crispin
in the
Hurston.
Hurston line. Yeah.
Hey,
Hello, my name is Crispin
or-
Hurston, and welcome to Hurston Dynamics Hurston. I'm Crispin of the Hurston Dynamics Hurstons. I'm sure you've heard of us before. Would you like to see my cousin? He's Constantine over there. Go piss him off. It's funny because like Constantine goes, "Did my cousin put you up to this?" It's great.
Yeah. Is Crispin an actual in-lore name, or did you make that character up? And plant him
I
in that
made
line?
Crispin up. So
Yeah, okay.
Crispin's a lazy insert. I made up a character called Crispin Cantabile on World RP. He was like a news reporter. So I just used the same character, but just like, sped him up.
Applied him
2000 years.
into the lore of
Yeah.
Star Citizen, and you integrate him into the family line, and then you knew everything about Hurston and Lorville, and you gave our friends a role play tour of Hurston of Lorville through the eyes of a tour guide who was one of the Hurston family. So like that was really
Right.
cool. It was a great little tidbit of lore knowledge and a nod towards the lore, and you were able to play a character that gave to others. That's another like 80% character that is for, and 100% is for other players. So you're really offering people that, but using the in-game lore. You could have just made up a new character and said, I am Crispin Jackson, and I'm here from wherever, and I'm here and I'm a tour guide. But instead, you knew some of the lore and enough of it to embed yourself in and make it believable and immersive, which was super cool. So it does help, but you don't need it. Myre's just a god.
No, exactly.
He's just a god. That's all. Yeah, even me, the lore guy, I'll tell you, like the lore is you can diegetically gather a lot of the lore. Like you don't have to be a genius you don't have to have read like the entirety of the lore to know that Lorville is a shithole. Just take one look at it and go, that's a shithole. And then you go into you go to Central Business District and you say, wow, that guy has a giant gold statue. These people are pricks. And it's like, it's CIG does a really good job of that kind of very environmental storytelling. So, so you don't have to, know too much. But I too would wish we have more of a Galactopedia in game. I'm one of those people. It's like, I always want to see more immersion and more active, like,
there are so many resources.
Yeah,
there are so many resources for Star Citizen that should be in Star Citizen.
Yeah.
Soon, hopefully,
hopefully.
Yeah. Or a cool games calculator for one needs to be in SC. Like either CIG talk to these guys or they basically reskin it and call it Whitley's Guide. I mean, just come on. I mean, I would say how hard is it to do, but it's likely very hard, but it needs to be in the game. Many games do this, like they rely on the communities to like make all these resources and stuff for them when they really, really should have a place in the game. I shouldn't have to tab out and Google something that should be apparent in a game that's set in 2952.
Yeah.
Rant over.
All right. Such a little bite-sized rant. I've been going nuts over here. All my rants. You've got 10 more minutes if you want it. I've gone through my accrued rant time. So
all your time. You're over your time, Mr. Mythematic. All right. So this is a question from Mythematic. Is Jarvis related to Janice?
I don't know who Janice is.
Okay, so I don't know if that is. Mr. Snaps, you'd have to tell us what that is.
I also didn't realize that like everybody was like, you should name it Jarvis, and I didn't watch Marvel movies, and and hate me for whatever. But I early on when Marvel started being like, hey, we're doing a bunch of movies, I was like, I'm sort of tired of the Marvel movies. Not that I don't like them, I just didn't watch them. I like all of the characters. I like Marvel. I just didn't watch every movie. So I didn't know that Jarvis was a thing in like the Iron Man stuff. So I was like, oh crap. And so I needed to like figure out how to make Jarvis my own and things like
Oh,
that. So
okay.
yeah, because Chat, I was like, Chat, what should I name him? And then like a bunch of people like Jarvis, ha ha. And I was like, okay, and that's fine with me. That sounds original.
Okay.
And it was
Very.
So
original.
Chat is because I remember this now. Janice, but it's not spelled. They spelled it Janice. They're talking about Janice, Janus, or whatever, the god,
Right.
the goddess, who there's an
The
AI.
two-faced god.
Yeah, there's a god, or the god. There's a god. There's an AI in Star Citizen lore that was piloting a sleeper ship before they discovered jump points, who's called Janus, which is why they're wondering if
When
that-
did
that's where it
this
came
come
from.
out?
This came
When
out.
did
This
lore
was
drop?
lore that came out like, this lore was
2012.
like 2014 or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And- The generational shift disappeared, and that's why like AI is banned, or one of the reasons why AI is
Okay, that
banned
makes
in
sense.
Star
Yeah, that's
Citizen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So.
I was gonna say, woo,
Edgy.
somewhere. All right. That's cool. That's great. Yeah, that is. If that is, I haven't. That's. Thank you for that offer, whoever
Yeah.
said that, because likely they're related, because of that story and that lore. Jarvis has also a very similar background. He's being smuggled because there were these people known as the Commonwealth from the Jovian system who were actually moving him through Stanton because they needed to use the Stanton point, right? Because Stanton's the best way to get to Terra and Earth,
Yeah.
right? Is that why Stanton exists?
Yeah, it's halfway between.
Look at me knowing stuff. And so they were getting the Jovian artificial replicant, viable of intelligence self, moved from one point to another. And in the point here on, oh boy, here we go. During the transport in a Javelin, it crashed and was trying to be seized on Daymar. So the Javelin that was on Daymar, in my headcanon, contained Jarvis. And then it was salvaged by a different organization known as Arcanus, and Arcanus salvaged it. And then the Ahmadi Enclave figured out about it. And then they, the Commonwealth and also some security and private security were trying to chase down. This is a movie I actually have a script for and never shot it, and probably will at some point. They flew in and tried to seize it. And then Arcanus called a hauler to come pick it up, and they plugged in Jarvis into Bear Black's ship to keep Jarvis alive because the Ahmadi Enclave's god was dying, and were able to preserve it and keep it safe and smuggle it through the caterpillar. So there is a lot of similarities between what I hear of Janice and Jarvis. So why not? Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
There's probably Jarvis is probably an iteration of Janice, or at least a braked, modified version of Janice, which is so cool because they sound so close to the same name. And I'm now just going to make that canon because you can do that. I can do that.
You can do that.
Thank you, CIG, for letting me do that. It's been so nice talking to you.
Winlord00 asks, do you think there's still a plan for that people with multiple game packages on their account will get multiple characters without having to log into a second account to play their alt character? I hope. I mean, my biggest hope.
Sure.
My biggest
answer this. Sorry, I'm still recovering from the last one.
You're good. My biggest hope is that we get away from the handles and we can just name our characters. That's
such a simple thing.
So just so when you see somebody online, you don't see their you don't see the astropub over my head. You see like, oh, this person is here, and you look at me. It'll you scan me with your little hand scanners in the future. It'll say Paul Shelley. Residence, Magnus, occupation, this, like things that would be last registered by my job status is what I did in the UE archives, which is kind of what we already have now for ships. So
from an immersion standpoint, it would be cool if you could like have multiple character slots. But from like a standpoint of Star Citizen being the game that it's supposed to be, it makes next to no sense to have them. So I feel like because like there are no classes, like there's no benefit of starting fresh apart from wanting to start fresh. So like an account having multiple slots, apart from like being known as something else for the very specific purpose of roleplay doesn't seem like like a path that CIG would necessarily want or need to go to. So like, in the past they talked about having multiple game packages, and if you did have multiple game packages, you could kind of consolidate them and have different character slots or whatever and use those in that kind of way. It's probably still going to be that way. I'm not too sure if they will branch out or change, and they haven't spoken about this in a long time.
No,
so I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. All
Hmm.
right. Next question comes from Luca Lazzi, who asks, question, roles versus jobs. Most players identify as a miner, a bounty hunter, a foot soldier, an ace pilot, etc. Those are jobs. Can you give examples of roles? Because Myth, you talked
They're the
about
same,
roles
really.
earlier. Or I think, yeah. Was it you and Myre both talked about roles?
Yes,
I
they are
use them
the same.
interchangeably.
Okay.
They are the same, but there are archetypes in theater that also can be played here. And those could be also seen as roles, where you are the supportive character. Where is your role the ingenue? Is your role the clown, right? Which is known as the Commedia dell'arte, which is that is the Harlequino in the Commedia dell'arte Renaissance era of Italian theater. So as much as they know lore about Star Citizen, I have lore about theater. So when I see role playing, there is and what sort of changed my way of thinking about this was like and this may just be too nerdy for everybody. Everybody may just check out during this entire answer. But World of Warcraft you have the role tanks, DPS, and healer, right? That is what makes that a role playing game, right? They call it a role playing game. It's an MMORPG, and things like that. So those are roles, and you have a role in your group, right? Now, when it comes to role playing, you could just, if it helps you get into your character or be immersive, you can interchange them with jobs. When it also comes to role playing, like the other day, Myre made Crispin Hurston. That was a role, not necessarily in the fact that he was the character was Crispin Hurston, or the fact that the character was integrated into the role play, or the fact that the character was a tour guide, right? Or turned out to be the tour guide. I think the role of the character was to fulfill a story point for the other characters in the scene, which was, if you were to look at this scene or these characters in this scene in a lineup, which ones are the main characters? Which ones are the supportive characters? Which ones are the villains? Which ones are, and like all of those little archetypes of theater. That's how my brain goes into role playing, because it's like archetype playing or job playing, and things like that. So that's how, at least where my brain goes when it comes to, is this character going to be a supportive character? Because I could be a miner, but I could also be a villain. I could be a bounty hunter, but I could also be a hero. Like, there are these sort of other archetypes in storytelling that sort of exist in this sort of narrative subconscious that we have all sort of learned throughout our watching of any sort of Disney movie or any sort of movie, even growing up, not even Disney, but my background of knowing Disney movies, they all have sort of the same sort of archetypes throughout them. The same sort of things happen in any of your favorite directors' movies. There are this sort of archetype formula of what the characters are that are presented and how they interact with each other. And that is sort of what I would think is role playing. It's the combination of the job, the character background, also what role they play in the verse or the community that you're playing in. On Red Dead, I have a gunsmith who doesn't leave the gun shop. Well, he does, but I mean rarely. He manages the gun shop there. My role is I'm a gunsmith, but my role is I'm sort of giving life to Rhodes, that little town down there, by um, by offering or having my character be there, right? I'm offering a little bit of life by having that archetype of support. I'm that little backdrop that people can come in and have that immersive background, because the NPC is talking back with them dynamically. Oh wait, no, that's a player. So, and the same sort of thing in Star Citizen. My role, I feel like, if for Bear, is a cargo hauler, and is a smuggler, cargo hauler that is willing to hire other people and be a manager for these blue collar jobs and these freelance jobs. So to integrate people into the story. I'm also something people can role play with if they wanted to pirate me and take my cargo. The amount of times I have streamed and had cargo taken from my ship is 0. And I play this character because I would like to have conflict. So,
Mhm.
like, I am zipping from one place to another. I would love to have my character be a pinata, or at least that role play pirate scene or whatever. It's
Yeah.
sort of it's there. That role is so people can see and be like, "That's a target. We should get after Bear Black's full cargo ship."
Mhm.
That's sort of my long-winded answer about role play versus jobs, because I like to figure out the narrative or the more complicated reason for something to make sense. So I think that was me putting together your question and trying to find an answer that helps.
I do that all the time. So yeah, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, all right, here's the
I
question.
get what you're saying.
How can I?
Yeah, a good kind of way of looking at this is like just look at Star Wars alone. There are 2 archetypes for bounty hunters. There's the evil bounty hunter and the good bounty hunter. There's the evil smuggler and the good smuggler. Because Star Wars works in black and white. It's very simple. You either good or bad. But you know, Boba Fett in Return of the Jedi is an evil bounty hunter. He works for the evil crime lord. But in Book of Boba Fett, he is the good crime lord, the good bounty hunter. You know, or the Din Djarin of the Mandalorian is the good bounty hunter. So because he's the main character, I guess,
and how the story's told.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
obviously.
So you can.
You cut out.
Yeah, you cut out there, Myre.
What did you say, Myre?
I said
This is the way. Obviously.
That is the way. That's the way.
So you can also think about it in that sort of thing. If you want to be, another way of looking at it is also from a popular perspective is if you're really into wrestling. Wrestling has a lot of those roles.
Yes.
The heel is a great example. Like someone who always is the bad guy who always loses. You know, they're jobbing. You know, you want to be a jobber. You can be a jobber if you want to be a professional jobber in RP. You can. There are people who do that. You know, and you can do that very serious, like the person who never gets a break, or you can be the comedic cartoon who always screws up, and you know is like Bebop and Rocksteady from Ninja Turtles, you know, that kind of thing. You know, Skeletor.
You know, and like kind of say, like in much the same way that when I say I watch movies, it could mean that I watch horror movies, I could watch comedies, sitcoms, all that stuff, or you know, I watch anime, but you can have, you know, that's just a name for like a massive medium that has tons of things. RP is just like that. RP is the umbrella for which you can do anything that you want. If you've seen TV, if you've seen acting or anything like that, you can, you know, you can kind of fulfill that within RP. If you just want to have your character be a bit more immersed into what I just put down, you can do that too, without necessarily having the need to like, you know, fulfill RP for other people or to like make other people feel a certain way. Not everybody needs to be a service character within RP. Not everybody needs to, you know, like have the best, you know, like have this external, almost meta kind of like other people's best experience in the forefront of their mind, you know, like it is just a medium and it is up to you to do what you want to do with it, you know?
Yeah, that's what it is. All right, we got 3 more questions left. We see Pumpkinberry's in the chat. So Pumpkinberry's another one of those who's here from. I remembered PB from Elite Dangerous RP back in the day as well. So
back in the
way back in the day. So who's been getting into Star Citizen. So all right, GMAT83. He has 2 questions. First question is, how do you think the difference? How do you think the difference from having an RP server like Wild RP versus a regular server like Star Citizen? Basically, a structural experience versus a disorganized server. Do you think they will end up with RP servers in the long run?
So CIG have said that they want to entertain the idea of private servers. However, that's going to be on whoever is going to run that private server and not CIG. I think that the people who play Star Citizen are going to have to find a way to kind of facilitate RP within the single shard universe. it can and will be fun if someone just hosts one star system like the the Stanton system, or even just one planetary system like the Hurston
That'd be
system.
dope. Yeah.
But with the way the game is set up, you can have that same experience, but also have it open to other people just by saying, okay, all our peers, we're just going to go and, like do
The
RP
stage,
in the
yeah, the stage is next to this today. We're going to be here.
Yeah.
The biggest issue it comes down to, and we talked about this before, the stream snipers, and not just like the
Malicious.
the malicious or the malignant ones that like that find you and blow you up, but even just the ones that can like loiter there and don't do anything and like make cause
Don't
accidents.
offer anything. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably where the benefit of a private RP server will come from. But private RP servers have their own, buckets of, like demons and stuff that, like. So there are pros and cons to both of them, honestly. And I would like to see a way for like RP in Star Citizen to flourish within the world CIG are building, because it seems to be so RP heavy and RP focused anyway. Like anyone trying to host a private server using just a fragment of what the game has, I think will be missing out on like the full vision of what Star Citizen can offer.
I think so too. I think I've received a lot of, oh man, I can't wait for. I want to get into Star Citizen. A lot of my streamer friends too. I want to get into Star Citizen, but I can't wait until I'm going to wait until they do private servers. One, that's not entirely a promised thing, and two, that's not what Star Citizen is, right? If there are other games that offer that, but Star Citizen is nice because it's supposed to be this other option of like enjoying the world and enjoying space and learning about sci-fi and blah blah blah. But having wh- what will happen, and this happens in the 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 role play community in any video game, is when you create private servers, you start fracturing the community. People are going to start only playing on those servers, and they're not going to care about the global or whatever the official server is or whatever it is. And then it's a lot of responsibility for that private owner to update and keep people involved and have the right rules that also won't. It's. I don't think that it would be Star Citizen if they had private servers.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the magic and fun of Star Citizen is doing things in the servers they are and finding people in making friends in the game it is, and being able to pull off what it is that Myre and I pull off in the game, like that. We wouldn't have been able to do that jump town heist. We wouldn't have been able to do that because we would have role played with other people. It would have been probably a longer scene, and we probably would have been standing around outside of the ship for longer, talking about who knows what. But we wouldn't have done the mechanics. It would have been more of a smaller community who are excited to hang out with each other rather than playing the game and push forward for whatever your own benefits are. So I think role play communities or private communities for Star Citizen may not help in the way that people think they will.
Yeah,
I agree.
Which is just a long-winded agreement. What do you say?
I hate the fractious nature of multiple servers. It's one of the things that I think a lot of people in Star Citizen do too. Because when CIG initially talked about shards, everyone lost their mind because they heard shards and they're like, I want to play with my friend who's, one of the big people who I play with almost all the time is Diablos. And if Diablos isn't, he's in Australia, I'm in the US. If we couldn't be able to play together, it would be horrible if I had to choose a server. So I think most people would agree that they want to kind of have this full thing. And I think the key is finding the degrees of tolerance that you're willing to go for with your own role play. If you're going to be in the open, how tolerant are you going to be? You're going to have to move things around, or you're going to have to set things up. So I think it's just a kind of the element.
Yeah, it'll fracture the fandom, I think, too. Like not much separates me from anybody in chat who plays Star Citizen. But if I was on a private server, a lot of things will probably separate me between that person because they're playing on a different server, right? And like their culture is different, their community is different now. And who knows if they change code or whatever, but their community that they hang out with is different than what mine would be. But now, me going to Star Citizen Con or me going to a Bar Citizen, I have a lot more in common with anybody there because I am also a huge fan of the game state that it's in, rather than having a fractured bit for a separate community, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. All right, he asked the same question. I'm just going to summarize it. How do you think Death of a Spaceman will impact roleplay when you have a final dead point, when, you know, say Bear is finally dead and he is dead? Do you think you're going to go, is that going to make it harder, or is it going to make it easier? Do you think you're going to go with it? Do you think it's going to be a detriment to RP?
Take it away, Myre. I'm going to run away for a second, but I can still do.
Death of a Spaceman will only affect you if you want it to affect you. Because end of the day, as a role player, you decide when your story ends, and Star Citizen is only ever a vector and a platform for your roleplay. So, like, much in the same way as if you're like RPing in any other game and your character dies and there's no like long-winded RP reason for why you're back with your memories, just because the game says, oh, the character you made is dead and they're dead forever and like they can't regen anymore, it doesn't stop you from going back to the main menu and retconning it at all. It's always going to be down to you as the player to decide, okay, well, that's the end point. That is that. I mean, like, if you're role playing, you make your own rules, much in the same way as if you're playing a tabletop RPG. Like, everything else is literally just a guideline.
Yeah, you can be as immersive or not as immersive as possible. Like my first point of view, when my character dies and perma dies, he's dead. I'm gonna move on because that's fun for me. That's like, what would happen afterwards? How would the successor, who would their successor be? How would they function? That kind of thing. But that's up to you. It's as little or not, because you can literally just say copy paste, and because it's just a game mechanic, just like copy and paste the same character, whatever. Now, you know, there's no difference. And with regen, as especially even like in immersive reasons, regen, you don't know what their imprint viability score is. You don't know how long they have to live. So
yeah,
you know, who knows?
It's just a guideline, you know, like, yeah, it's a really immersive and cool and well-written way to determine when a character was to die within the world of Star Citizen, but it is literally just a guideline, and you shouldn't let it like govern how you play or how you are telling your character's story unless you want to. And for Paul, for myself, that's how it's going to be. But then again, for me in RP and within Star Citizen, the character that I play when I'm just playing Star Citizen is just me playing Star Citizen. It's just me in the future or whatever like that. It's very RP light. But you know, for if you're a Mythematic, you know, he might be doing something else. He might have Bear Black as this thing that he's always playing, and if they've reached an imprint viability score of like, you know, 0 and he can't regenerate, he might decide, okay, well, Bear's dead now, or he can just go, that never happened, and, you know, write off the consequences some other way. It's all up to you as the player.
Yeah,
I have answers, and this is where people regret that I was on the show. Because I just keep having these long ass.
That's fine. We only have one more question after this, so you know.
Wonderful. I love roleplay theory. This is like my bread and butter. I love blabbing about it, so it's always exciting when people want to talk about it with me. And then I never get invited again because I talk too much. But the thing that I have to say about this, and it's always fun too because I'm like a try-hard, nerdy, serious role player. So a lot of what I'm saying, you don't have to do. But it's things that I do because I enjoy it. And I'm not saying like I enjoy it and you should do it around me. I do it for my own fun. I like to challenge myself with playing 2 characters at once. I like to challenge myself with coming up with weird flaws for my characters, or weird mechanical flaws that I would do. Like in not to bring up Red Dead, but I'm going to bring up Red Dead again. One of my Red Dead characters it was faked his death. And then he was a criminal, and we faked his death, and I never went to the towns again. And I was like in the background and stuff, and trying to play the game by being invisible, because his character, he was like still being a criminal, but I wanted to be invisible to the world, so I didn't want the cops to know that I still lived because we faked the death. So it was a lot of fun, but it's like giving myself those hurdles and to challenge myself. And what I've been doing recently in Red Dead, and this is why I bring this up again, because in Red Dead there is no value of life.
Yeah.
There is a rule about value of life, or at least the server we're on, but a lot of the servers, not even just the server we're on, but with this Wild RP one we're talking about, but in a lot of the role play servers that I've been on, there's always this rule about value of life, and also with the same point that Myers said is that it's really always up to the player whether or not the character is dead. Which means if that's the case, that means there's no value of life and life doesn't have value, which makes it really hard to be immersed in a world where you're all playing gods. Because in meta mind, you know that everyone's a god. So you have to backtrack, um, you have to think about the story, the outcomes, the reactions, and then there's always the thought of they're probably going to live through this because they may
Yeah.
not die. So it's the and like that little meta seed of life having no value, though I have to role play that is always difficult for newer role players and people getting into the craft or seasoned role players because life does not have value in those scenarios. If and in which you still can, if you ignore death of a salesman, death of a spaceman, it's sort of giving that. It's sort of giving that mechanic no value. But I also agree that it's always up to you. I, in Red Dead recently, have been, and I like to push more people to do it, have been doing this 9 lives rule, where if I get down in PvP 9 times, I kill my character. I have 9 opportunities to try to tell my character's story. But at some point, it's going to happen, and my character will die, which also lets me, the character, the player, know that the end is coming. So I can prepare emotionally for it because killing a character off like that is traumatizing sometimes because you're like, oh, my entire creative process of this character, 5 billion years of whatever my Twitch career is, or whatever it may be, my 5 years of role playing with this community has been about this character, or my Twitch career has exploded because of this character, and things like that, where a lot of these meta, and meta being, for those who are like, what the hell is he talking about? Meta being information out of character, out of game. This meta of not having value of life makes it a little hard for those reactions of genuine fright. If people don't have, if people are immoral, they're going to become less scared in their meta. Even the players won't be scared because the players know that their characters are going to live through it. So you're going to have this like guns drawn scene, or, and this also applies to Star Citizen, a guns drawn scene where someone's leading you through your cargo hauler with a shotgun to your back, and you're trying to, and you're transporting your loot over to their ship. That's a really cool scene. But also, if I wanted to, I could just turn around and blast that guy because I know I'm not risking anything. So so what I really like about the Death of a Spaceman is it's offering sort of that same thing that I've been doing with my 9 lives rule. Is it's sort of letting the player know that the end is coming. So it lets you sort of get emotionally prepared that your character is dying, which is kind of cool. And it lets you know that I should probably start thinking about another character, or how am I going to react to this? Because you could then start like, oh, my imprint is at 78%. What does that mean? Do I have a brown eye now and a green eye? Like, what is changing? Do I have a scar that has stayed through my regen process? You can start to do some of it's an offer that CIG is giving us to help our role play, whether or not you choose the death, or if you would like to, you could and be like, okay, yeah, that's a great offer. Thank you so much, CIG, for killing off my character 3 months into this death process. Or you can go, all right, I think 78 imprint is enough for me to say that I now have a robotic hand. You can do sort of that stuff where they still give you like this meta knowledge, but narratively, you can do whatever you want with that. You could justify what 78% means, and that could be a new cool thing for your character, whether it's a scar, whether it's a missing hand, or whether it is missing an eye, or things like that. So, as much as you can ignore it, it also is a cool offer to help with the value to your character's life,
Yeah.
which would then only help fuel raw emotion, or not raw emotion, excuse me, fabricated emotion in your role play scenes, if that's something you are, or raw emotion if you are not role playing and someone's trying to hijack your ship.
Yeah.
You're going to get raw emotions of,
This is my
please
last
don't kill me.
character.
I've spent so long on this character, and I really like the Star Runner, and I've got 3 billion in the bank, and like you're going to have that ramble and panic won't happen if
There is no.
that didn't exist,
Yeah.
because they would immediately take out the gun and fire, because you're equals at that point. No one has any value over than the other, and that's sort of what happens a lot in these private other like Red Dead or GTA or Atlas or Ark or all these other servers that I've been a part, Conan as well. All of these other servers I've been a part of is where there isn't any current, when life doesn't have a resource, there's no resource to your lives, there's no value to your life. It's really hard for you as the player, and some of us, like professional role players in this Twitch industry, it's really hard to have some sort of value when in the meta of the rules there isn't, you know? So it's really hard to like, it's hard to step back and see that there's a contradiction between how the rules are written. So my take on Death of a Spaceman, and when you first brought it up, I think it was both of you. We were in a Death of a, we were talking about Death of a Spaceman in another interview somewhere sometime.
Yeah.
And and I was like, wow, that's amazing, because it was the first time I heard about it. And I thought that's so cool because of the same sort of deal. It's giving value to life. It's also giving value to your tries. Yes, you can ignore it, right? And most likely people will, but also it will help with role play, which is hilarious, because that is another reason why that's another point to Star Citizen as a role-playing game.
It is. I mean,
but that's my that's
I
my
was gonna
ramble
say
about permadeath and stuff.
Yeah, CIG is very much like Chris has taken a lot of time to think about this, and Chris has talked.
Talk.
Yeah, hey, Chris is at his core a theatrical guy, so he understands a lot of these things. He always wanted to be a director. It's obvious from Wing Commander games if you watch how many cutscenes there are in Wing Commanders, and it's obvious he's trying to map theatrical concepts onto into a video game as much as possible, so that you can feel the fear of losing everything. And he talked about even like how Dark Souls makes you fear your life, because you every step you take has to be careful and planned, and that's and have to plan and worry about it. And that's the core element of that game, is fear. It's not necessarily difficult if once you get to play it and you understand it. It's not it's wonky, but it's not as hard as a lot of people like to point out. But you always know that if you screw up, you could lose everything and go right back to the beginning.
Value. Your life bar is a currency that ticks away very quickly in Dark Souls.
Yeah,
so
and
it's a thing that you have to pay attention to and be careful of and manage.
And that's that was his inspiration for Death of a Spaceman. He says obviously not like super hardcore, but he wanted it to have that little element to it. And that's at its core a role play concept, and a gameplay aspect. That's the key of Star Citizen, I think, is taking a lot of things that are common in role play and in acting and stuff like that, and translating it into gameplay mechanics, which is not easy. So, it's difficult. All right, last question. Winlord00 asks, one of the most watched Star Citizen videos is the Bed Bananas prison escape. How important to RP is finding a group you click with?
That's the most important thing. It's the hardest thing to do, but once you do it, that's it. That's you set.
And I think we're experiencing that now too. I'm now getting a group of role players who enjoy role playing, try hard like I do, and it's fucking cool. And I swear again. But I mean, it's I think it's having a group of people who are on board with what you want to do in Star Citizen is important. I mean, if you it's like anything. It's like, hey, we want to go play baseball. You want to be on my baseball team, and you don't get along, you're not going to have fun playing baseball.
Yeah.
It's right at sports. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
But like, it's really
like gaming.
it's really the same in anything. Yeah. You want to come play video games with me and go shoot stuff, and then you just don't click well with that person for whatever reason, it's not going to be fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think in the exact same way. Yeah, there are ways, and it can be successful if you have a large number of if you have numbers in your organization or your guild or whatever it may be in whatever game it is. But if you have 200 or 300 people in your organization, and they don't all get along, and you don't get along with every one of them, it's going to be very hard to want to nurture that entire thing if they're not on board with what you do and think of the sort of that same, if you don't get along with them, is my
Yeah.
theory and
Yeah.
my thoughts. I don't have an organization of 300 people, so I could be different, but that's my theory.
RP is a bit more difficult as well in general, just to
Yeah.
like that group, because like with other games, I mean, like you might need like maybe 4 other people to like to get into a competitive game of like Valorant or something like
Mhm.
that, and all you need then is just people you click with and who are at the same level of the game as you are. When it comes down to RP, if you're trying to like RP as a group, say in like in a capital ship or a multi-crew ship, then you're going to need to also be able to find people who kind of like connect with you in a narrative level as well, who are able to tell stories in a way that can like who you bounce off, like who get you both. It's weird and mushy and stupid, but like it's very important.
Mhm.
I
don't-
thought we were going to get real mushy. Damn it. Okay, keep going.
I don't disagree. And
No.
I think it was Bread Banana is the name of it. I'll look up the name again. Bed
Yeah, it's-
Banana.
I haven't seen it.
They're not role playing in that. They're just basically
they're
reenacting
doing-
Final Space.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, if you
reenacting
wanna
Final
see-
Space.
If you want to see some role play, come check out my stuff.
Well, that's my point.
On YouTube.
That's my point, is that it's not even really a super in-depth role play. It's just them just hanging out, being, like reenacting, having fun. But they're doing it in character. And
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's why people love it, is because it's very in character and that kind of thing. And I follow a ton of different content creators who do stuff like in Arma, where they just do operations in Arma. But if you watch a couple of their videos, you get to know all of the characters in their videos, and you get to know who their characters are because they start playing that role.
Mhm.
And the same thing is that's not too different from a role play situation. It's just, now you have with role play, you have
Playing your
characters
role.
you can learn to them, and a little bit more depth or a little bit more story elements to them. So yeah.
Any
All
sort
right.
of group personality, right? Like even on YouTube or something, I could say probably any YouTuber that have multiple people as their. Let's say there is like a let's play with multiple people, okay, and that's their thing.
Mhm.
Those people that are bantering back and forth are role playing. They
Mhm.
have and they've established an archetype between both of them. Oh, you're going to be that funny guy, and I'll be the serious one, or something. And that's in all successful media and hosts as well. Even on the news, you're going to have people around that table that are going to have their own personality and their own roles within that'll interact with each other. Especially in like the entertainment industry, people take on these roles inside of their own personalities to make and to play into when entertaining, because one, it's consistent, and two, the audience understands it, because that's sort of how we have all been trained. When we look at a new piece of art, we start to learn the people, and then we learn their character, and then we learn their archetype in the story there. And even in like I said, if it's a vlog or something, even in what they did last episode and how that interacts now. Oh, they always do that. That guy, he always seems to fall off the third stair here. That's like his joke thing. See, that's like a role thing. That's a person who's going to take that clown klutzy part. So, yeah. Anyway, that's me.
Yeah,
me
I agree.
Rambling.
Yeah, it's
I'd like
good.
to
Go on.
like Frosty K77 in your chat says, and I agree. I think RPing is kind of unique because you have to be able to trust the group in being like-minded as well as for imagining and running with it as well. It's not just being good at the game, but it's also being able to tell a story that you're all kind of like invested in, and you're all able to yes and off and all that stuff as well. Within other platforms and other kinds of improv RP and that kind of thing, it's a bit more like of that. But within Star Citizen, Like if you are just hopping on a Twitch for the first time and this is your first channel and you're listening to people discuss about RP and you're like, this isn't for me. This is like, you know, they're talking about acting and stuff. You don't need to take it that far. You don't need a big group of people who know, who get you. You don't need any of that. All you need is to just be you. And I think that like we should kind of try and push that on as hard as possible as well today, which is just like, if you want to get into RP, don't think that you need a whole bunch of stuff. If you have a microphone, that's all you need for VoIP RP in Star Citizen.
And an
imagination. If you have a micro, yeah. And if you don't have imagination, the game has plenty of it for you.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. You bought the game. You probably already have the imagination. Yeah.
The person I challenged to a duel randomly because I was just talking with them, they never RP'd in their life. They were RPing and didn't even realize it. They love it. They still remember it. Yeah, they loved it because they killed me. I mean, I lost, but it was this great experience of getting randomly challenged to a duel in Port Olisar, going to Daymar and killing some random person.
And had like a Wild Western duel.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was fantastic. It was absolutely, and it was just because I was talking to people through microphone. That's all it was. So like that's all you really need to do. Talk to people and just roll with it, and you'll see, you know. Play a character and roll with it. And the character could be as simple as I'm me, but in space. It's like, that's fine.
Yeah, just be you in space.
Yeah, just go for it. Fine. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Myth and Myre, for spending your time with us. Make sure that you're following their social medias. And if you enjoyed this, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. As I've been saying for all these videos, it's a brand new channel because I split the channel between the lore and the gameplay side, or gaming kind of side of things. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button for more content like this. And of course, if you want to join us live, we do this usually on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Well, I'm not going to say that. 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.